Hello, I am Tom.
Hello.
Oh,
Right.
I'm Johanan.
I'm Thomas Christensen.
Deflating atheism.
Deflating atheism. Okay.
Welcome to the second podcast. I've said in the last podcast that we were going to make a response to Messianic Manic if he ever made a response to our channel, to our video, and I wanted to let everyone know first of all what did all of you think of the response Messianic Manic made?
It was kind of disappointing, but we'll get to that and pick it apart. So
He ignored pretty much all the points we made, and then he just basically made his own kind of ad hoc argument. He just basically sets up this thing of bodily autonomy as an absolute, and then just makes ad hoc exceptions to it where he doesn't have to obey it. And so there's no underlying principle to his argument. It's all just based on the fact that he doesn't like the idea of women being quote-unquote forced to give birth. I take, of course, great objection to that term, being forced to give birth. But he thinks that's the most horrible thing in the world, and so that is his absolute standard for being pro-abortion.
Right. I agree with that, actually. I'm actually kind of glad he made a response. He sort of clarified a few things that I believe I misunderstood in the last video, actually. But of course, his whole point of his view of abortion, yeah, the idea of it is still wrong. And you're right, he didn't really go over a lot what we said, the questions he asked, and once again, no scientific evidence. But he seems to be arguing that it's more of that he cannot accept the idea of women forcing to give birth because he cannot accept it. He uses that a lot. And we also have someone new on here, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the video, but I will say in regards to women being forced to give birth, I mean, your actions have consequences, you know? If you have sex, it creates reproduction. I mean, there's just no getting around that fact. And I mean, I guess you could argue you could have other forms of stuff, but even still, you know, people have to be responsible. So
I mean, you know, deadbeat dads don't get to get away with cheaping out on child support.
Exactly. So it's like
and that's legally enforced. You have to pay child support if you have a kid. I mean,
well, exactly. Women aren't held responsible for their actions. You know, the problem with giving anyone rights, not just women, anyone rights, is if you give people rights without responsibility, you get bad outcomes. So
Also, I think it bears mentioning that no one when we ban abortion, you know, we're not forcing women to give birth. First off, I mean, there still is, of course, on the black market or wherever, the option for abortion, but no one else is pushing that baby through. That is a natural process of our body. So I guess in TMM's worldview, all of our bodily functions are forced on us if we're not provided with some sort of a technological alternative, as we are in the case of abortion.
Right.
The cynical view of a human biology where we are prisoners to our own biology, and it is the task of technology to liberate us from our own biology. I think that's just an absolutely poisonous view of the human body.
Oh, I would completely agree with that. I was also wanted to say. All
right, then. I'm going to start the video right now, actually.
Sorry, Thomas.
My bad. I didn't want to interrupt anyone. Sorry about that.
No. That's
you could start the video, just like piece it together. Like, I want to see what's in the video.
Oh, sure thing.
I saw it before, but I want to.
We're going to start the video right now.
All right.
And before we do, actually, Messianic Manic did actually responded to a quote I made on his channel at one time. Of course, reading it, he actually does insult me for misspelling the word theist. And my bad, I misspelled it. So apparently he finds that humorous. But this is the kind of thing.
At least you didn't wonder or pressing, okay?
Yeah. It seems to be a kind of thing where he'll just mock you if you make a smallest mistake, you know? If you give him a little bit of leeway, he'll basically insult you if any way necessary. But let's get on with the start of it here.
Okay.
Really, this guy is a paragon of rationality. Of course, he never says in this message what he thinks I was dishonest about. I haven't been dishonest about a fucking thing, but I did show inspiring philosophy to be dishonest, which was pretty easy given that IP frequently forgets that screenshots are a thing that exists. Johanan Rats is in there too, and he made a video some time ago arguing that I hypocritically cite Sean Carroll in some of my videos, but don't understand Sean Carroll's physics. Rats thinks that Sean Carroll's ideas corroborate Rats's idealist conception of the universe. The problem is that this isn't what Sean Carroll believes, so he accuses Sean Carroll of also not understanding Sean Carroll's physics.
All right, stop it. All right.
Yeah.
Firstly, that he doesn't even know what he's talking about there. Like, I did not say any such thing as Sean Carroll does not understand his physics. Sean Carroll understands his physics. He doesn't understand the philosophical implications of his physics. All right. Two completely different levels. You know, Sean Carroll is a great scientist. I respect him a great deal as a physicist. Just that when it comes to the philosophic implications of his physics, he doesn't get them. Like he apparently must be doing a shut up and calculate approach, and he doesn't understand the implications of them. But we'll get to that as we go on in the video.
Right.
Much like Lawrence Krauss, yeah.
Right, and I should actually explain why I think Messianic is dishonest. It happened a while back when Messianic was responding to a video from Inspiring Philosophy. I've noticed that he's arguing to Inspiring Philosophy of the title of a video and not the context inside of it. That's when I was figuring out Messianic is being dishonest. He's finding any loophole to argue from. And it's pretty clear to see now.
And the thing is, he didn't actually address the argument, though. That's the interesting thing about this is, sure, he's noticed what he did there. He deflected behind Sean Carroll's authority rather than looked at the actual physics, because the argument follows from the physics, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who's presenting the physics or what they believe about it. If they have the physics stands by itself, regardless of who's presenting it. I could be presenting it. Sean Carroll could be presenting it. Trevor from their week could be presenting it. He knows a bit about physics. You could have any number of people presenting this stuff. Tom Campbell, for example, he's an astrophysicist. He comes to close to my conclusion, actually. It's a simulation. It's like consciousness. And so the point is that he's doing a deflection. He's deflecting behind his scientific authority, and that's all he has. Or at least insofar as it, given what he's shown me, that seems to be all he has, unless he has something else I don't know.
All right, well, let's continue.
Well, that's what one would call an ad hominem fallacy.
Well, it's an appeal to authority.
Well, you're attacking the source rather than attacking the information itself. So it's actually both fallacies.
Ad hom and appeal to authority are kind of inverse fallacies of each other. Same thing in reverse. So we'll keep going, and we'll show exactly what the problem is in a minute here.
All right, let's continue.
This log. That one. Yep. Read it.
In truth, only atoms are the void.
And the void. That's the slogan from Democritus, right?
Quantum information directly contradicts that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like, we have this advanced model of emergent space-time from quantum information, and because this proves that this is the final triumph of science in proving materialism, democracy, and
He's great.
retard.
Carroll's failure to subscribe to Platonist quantum woo makes him a retard, apparently.
It should be. All right, freeze it there for a second. Firstly, yes, I happen to be a Platonist, but that argument had nothing to do with Platonism. That was directly from the physics, right? And the thing that was retarded was Sean Carroll not realizing the jarring incompatibility between there not being atoms and atoms in the void versus the universe made out of quantum information. If you have a void, right, that's space, but if you have emergent space-time, well, that means there's something more fundamental than space, right? The whole notion of something being emergent means that it emerges from something beneath it. And so if the void, aka space, emerges, that means that whatever it emerges from is by definition not in the void, right? And well, obviously atoms have spatial extensions, so it can't be atoms. So the whole notion of there being such a thing as emergent space-time from quantum information directly contradicts the notion of there being just atoms in the void. It's plain as day obvious, right?
Can I also say something else? Is that especially I think both from TMM and his kind of philosophical illiterate followers is that they think anyone who assents to the existence of abstract objects is a Platonist.
That's not even that. I mean, I happen to believe that, yes, but that's not even what's at stake in this issue here. I mean, yes, you can identify this information with abstract objects. I do that in a specific way with this quantum cognition concept, but you don't even have to go there. We're not even at that point yet. We're simply saying, take the physics as it is without any additional, pieces added to it. Emergent space-time means an emergent void, and if it's an emergent void, that means whatever it emerges from, it can't emerge from itself, right? So whatever it emerges from has to be not in the void, and therefore not an atom.
TMM's followers also seem to believe that anyone who agrees that there is mind-independent truth is a Platonist. Very confusing.
That's confusing.
Yes, but let's not derail.
Let's continue on.
Okay, go on.
Because there is a reason that there are these quantum probabilities that exist in nature that are producing these interference patterns. It wasn't just magic that created the interference pattern in the double slit experiment.
Oh yeah, I've been researching on that. Right, I understand that, but
yet, despite that, because of their absurdly positivistic instrumentalist, approach, they're like just dafted in the head when it comes to yes, an actual thing in reality caused that interference pattern there. That's just a instrumentalist, approximation or a useful fiction or something. I mean, like, good grief.
What the fuck does it mean for probabilities to exist in nature? What does it mean to say that abstract mathematical concepts exist at all? Ratz believes that Platonic forms exist despite their obvious incoherence.
All right, freeze it. Freeze it.
Freeze it. My video about
freeze it.
Yeah.
All right, go back to that screen there.
Go back?
Yeah.
To this
Pause
here?
it at the screen. No, back, brother.
This one?
Yeah. This is terrible. See, what's funny, but he literally doesn't know what he's talking about here. He's thinking that I'm talking about Platonic forms existing here. I made no reference to that. He thinks because I said probabilities are there, that means that these are mathematical concepts floating. No. These are quantum probabilities and it has nothing to do with Platonism, okay? I happen to be a Platonist, yes, but this has nothing to do with Platonic mathematical concepts of probability existence. This has to do with actual quantum probabilities there that are, when you have the whole double slit experiment, you have the particles going through the slits, they, interfere with themselves and hit the screen, right? And they create this interference pattern. Well, you do it one at a time, right? This is not just, people had this notion that it was a statistical effect, right? This wave function was just a statistical lumping of our way we were kind of measuring the electrons. And so they realized, no, let's send in one electron at a time or one photon at a time through the slits and see what happens. And it came up with the exact same probability distribution. So the point being is that this is not something that is a statistical approximation. The probability is in our head. I had to correct the polymath on this as well. It has to do with there being actual quantum probabilities in the wave function that then, causes interference, and they put the photon at one space rather than another place. And the reason we know it's in nature rather than in our heads is because, it's not just a approximation of a whole bunch of particles going through at once. It's one single electron that is behaving differently because of this probability distribution. It's not because of our measuring it. It's because it went through the slits by itself that way. And, Kaku, for example, of course, I know TMM hates Kaku, which is not surprising.
Wait, he hates Michio Kaku?
Yeah, he hates Michio Kaku.
Oh.
I think I trolled him with the whole vibration thing. The tying quantum cognition, and I brought Michio Kaku in with showing this waves of vibration, he said, and he trolled him with that. He didn't like that, I'm guessing. Anyway, he even pointed out, he said, well, in that same interview there, Big Think clip, he was saying, well, what's waving? And you're not going to like this, he said. He said, it's waves of probability. Those are things that exist in nature. It's not an abstract Platonic concept. It's, actual states in superposition in the wave function.
All right then.
I think you know, many physicists would point out that that's a real thing, even if they would then be kind of squishy as to how they interpret it per se. But the fact that this is not just a statistical interpretation that's been debunked a long time ago with single slit or single particle double slit experiments. Now, lastly, this whole business with the Platonic forms exist despite their obvious incoherence. How in the world are they incoherent? What the heck is he talking about? Firstly, they're not incoherent at all. It's like saying ideas are incoherent. And secondly, you getting rid of Platonic forms produces incoherence. And the reason for that is all knowledge is at some point grounded on Platonic forms. Even knowledge about the outside world that you have, you see something like the color red or blue or etc., but that's a perception out there. You perceive it, but you haven't conceived it yet. In order for it to be something that's knowledge, your mind has to grasp the perception and it becomes an idea, right? And regardless of where it originated from, it still has this, insofar as it counts for justifying knowledge or being knowledge itself, it is a conception. And the conception has, that's another word for a Platonic form. It's an idea that has its own ontology, and obviously it exists. Otherwise, we wouldn't have knowledge. And to say we don't have knowledge is incoherent.
Yeah.
You don't know is incoherent. So of course you need to have Platonic forms, because otherwise there is no such thing as proof, and there is no such thing as knowledge.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah.
All of TMM's followers get all their knowledge of philosophy from TMM himself. So of course they all swarmed up my channel.
Well, you notice something interesting about this? His channel has not grown very much.
Yeah.
Like it grew for a while and then it paused out, and I think that's because feminism kind of killed the whole new atheist movement, and then after that, it's an echo chamber with 33,000 plus people that kind of goes up a couple hundred every few months, and that's literally what it is. It's an echo chamber of people that believe what they want to believe, and you look at the comment section on there, and most of them are, oh my goodness, they don't know what they're talking about. They're You know what? If TMM is watching this, I'm sure he's going to watch this at some point. He doesn't like to debate people, but that's fine. You don't have to debate. If you could just come on, I'd like to bring him on to a podcast here, and we could just have a discussion about this.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe he said what?
Well, I don't know if I want him on here actually.
Well, I'd be fine with him on here.
Yeah, you sure? Well, I don't know if it's a good idea to have one atheist and a group of theists. Maybe if we level it out a bit, maybe.
He can bring some people on if he wants. He can bring some atheists on.
Oh, I know. How about the Rational Channel? Or, he can invite anyone on here. Of course, that might get messy.
Etc. Yeah, Martimer.
That might get messy though. Like a group of theists and a group of atheists.
It depends. It can be a few theists and him, not super many, but like just have.
Well, if we do, maybe we should have it just one.
Maybe I can invite him to a one-on-one or something like that.
And then have like a middleman. Like something like that. But
he said that thing about he didn't want to debate people because it just makes stuff on the random, in a live debate, and you can't check that. Well,
wait, what did you say?
He said one time that he doesn't want to debate people because they can just make stuff up on the random, on the fly, and even a fly or whatever. Okay. It's stupid, but
that's just that's all he does.
Okay, even if that's true, Messianic Manic, if you're listening out there, I can cite all my stuff. Okay, I mean, you see me do it in my videos. Come on, you don't even have to call it a debate. You can call it a discussion if you want. I'll cite everything right off the bat, okay? I can even give you all the papers mid-discussion if you want. Links, arguments, all of it.
So he doesn't want people to debate him because they can easily lie on it. That's kind of dumb.
If he wants to debate, that would be great. I mean, I'd love to debate him on epistemology, philosophy of mind, and physics.
All right, and
but if he doesn't want to do that, go for a discussion on these things anyway.
Does he not like debates, or is that it, or does he?
I don't know. It seems that he doesn't like debates, but yeah, I challenge the Messianic Manic to a debate, and if he doesn't want to debate, then I challenge him to a discussion.
Discussion. All right. Well,
yep.
Let's see if he wants to be on the podcast. I guess he's welcome to come on here if he wants to. I mean, it'll be interesting if he does, but. But for now, I think we should get on with the rest of the video.
All right, let's go on to the abortion thing.
All right, let's continue then.
You guys want to pause and look at the title. It says, "Is a fetus human?" And that's just, that's an unscientific sort of thing. If you're trying to question that,
I'm not trying to question that. The whole point of that video is that a fetus is human, but that this is irrelevant. A corpse is human too. The fact that an organism is human per se is not what gives it moral value.
Oh my goodness, you can't murder a corpse, for crying out loud. It's already dead.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously.
I don't think you can call a corpse a human, can you? I mean,
no one has a problem with taking out a stillborn fetus that's already stillborn, right? Because the baby's dead, right? It's not we're talking about live people here, and they have, moral value because their essential nature is that of an intelligent organism. Now, maybe they don't have that essential nature activated yet, but it's part of their essential nature.
Right. Well, they will eventually become human. So even if they're not human now, but they will become human.
Well, it's not even that they are human. They are human. So they will become human. They are humans. They are, biological organisms of their own right. And what gives them moral value is that they have an essential nature that is that of an intelligent organism, even if that faculty is not activated yet. And by analogy, you could just point out sleeping people or comatose people, they're not quite intelligent yet, during while they're sleeping, and so.
Yeah, but see, TMM has all sorts of ad hoc excuses for not getting.
Okay, well, we can get to those as they come. Anyone can make an ad hoc excuse. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can't foresee those. We can just put this as it is. A fetal child is no different than a sleeping person insofar as their intelligence is concerned.
Yeah. But by the way, I think it's also important to point out the kind of operational difference between saying something is human, saying something as an adjective, and saying it is a human, like a.
Oh, right, yeah, exactly.
Yes,
it's saying something is human. It's a an adjective applying to it versus it's a human, as in this is a human being, as in noun.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, let's continue on here.
Position is one that I cannot help but hold. I'm not saying that that makes it right. I'm saying that it will be the position I hold regardless of whatever it is or it is not right.
Wait, hold on. Didn't you? There was another one you had about how he said that even.
Oh yes, I'll get to that.
That's the one I'm looking for. That's the one I'm looking for.
Right. I found these comments right here, but I want to go over this, like how messed up this is. So even if it's not right, he won't change his position. Just wow.
It's not just that I won't. I can't. The prohibition of abortion is simply not something I'm psychologically capable of tolerating. It makes no sense to say that I ought to accept prohibiting abortion because ought implies can.
Yeah.
All right, pause there. That would imply an inability to do the right thing. Like he's like programmed not to do the right thing. Of course, he doesn't think that free will exists. He pointed out the whole that one video talked about the guy with the bank robbery. He had no capacity not to stop it because he had this overriding inclination not to do that, right? Or inclination to rob the bank. But you don't give those people freedom to do things. And in this case, this is kind of why I think Plato didn't like democracy very much,
Yeah, it's insane to depend all our societal oughts on what every individual can do. Maybe.
And if they're actually admitting that they're unable to do the right thing, when they vote, and so on, and they're voting in things that are actually bad, right? Why ought they be voting?
Yeah.
And this is just, he's expressing a sentiment there. I give him credit for being, honest with that, but there's a lot of people that are like that.
It begs the question, like, why have voting at all?
Well,
like,
there are ways to, we should discuss this actually. There are actually ways to choke off democracies that would aspire to do things like murdering children.
Well, I think I think we should have literacy testing for voting, and the only people who should be able to own guns are people who own property. Like,
a fair opinion.
Again, I'll be in the minority there, but that's what I believe.
That's fine. We're mostly talking about the.
I'm not certain if it would be like that. It would be more of a you would allow voting, but you would have some way to kind of bend the democracy such that the choices are contained within a reasonable framework, so you don't end up with insanity. Like, for example,
Right.
you know, baby corporations like Pampers and Gerbers and so on. They could form something like a pack of sorts, and they could, you know, fortunately with this whole what was it that I forget that Supreme Court ruling sometime back where they allowed corporations to fund as much as they want to.
I think it was Citizens United versus the United States.
Yep. Citizens United. You could use that, and you could simply bend the democracy to kind of squeeze. I mean, they have a vested interest in there being more babies, right? So they could squeeze this off to make sure that democracy behaves itself when it comes to things like abortion.
Well, this.
I mean, you could have it in the Constitution, like you could have a guaranteed right to life in the Constitution.
All right. The problem is they'll bend those. I mean, they do have a guaranteed right to life in the Bill of Rights, but that doesn't really.
Right. I don't
Well,
want.
but it would have to go further. It would say that life begins at
I
conception
know,
or whatever,
I
something
know.
like that.
We're not
Yeah.
there. We're unfortunately not there though. We don't
No.
have that luxury at the moment. So
I
According,
think Ted Cruz supported an amendment like that.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
according to TMM, we don't have a right to life, but we do have a right to comfort. That's the first principle of our democracy is the right to comfort and the right not to have to suffer.
Yeah, the whole idea of him that he can't change his mind on the subject right here. This is basically what he thinks in him, and of what his own views of basically women should not be forced to give birth. He finds abortion to be more of an easy way out and against a woman's rights so far. But I always wonder, what about the infant, right, the baby inside? What
Right,
about
because it's not just her decision. It also affects the child because you're carrying another human being. So it's not just my body, my choice.
it is.
yeah, the laws don't work there to, they're not working in the interest of all the people there. They're working in the interest of the mother versus the fetal child. And you can't have a system that just doesn't work like that. And you have some people getting killed and other people being allowed to be killed for their, kill others for their own comfort, You have to have someone that would kind of put a kibosh
Let's
on
continue
that.
on with the video right now. Okay.
No one would be for abortion.
The Purge is a story about adults being murdered. It's not analogous to abortion. I'd far rather go through
Pause it.
involved in getting aborted
Pause it.
Yes.
as a fetus because
Pause. Okay. The Purge is a story about adults being murdered. It's not analogous to abortion. So essentially, the only difference there is age. I mean, of course, it's analogous to people, adults being murdered because it's children being murdered instead. I mean, fetal children being murdered. Who cares? Unless he's an ageist or something. I mean, a radical ageist, but that makes no sense.
Killing's killing.
Yeah, it's just the Purge in a limited sense.
All right, let's continue on here.
long before I could form any hopes or dreams that the end of my life would prevent me from fulfilling. It would be before I have any idea of what death even is. Being
Pause
forced
it
to give
again.
birth
Pause it
is-
again.
Yeah.
In the Purge, there are plenty of sleeping people who they didn't have any hopes or dreams while they were asleep, and they had no idea what death was because they would be asleep while they were being killed, right? And furthermore, that's completely stupid. Since when is this? Where did this capricious standard come from of having an idea of what death is being what gives a person moral value?
It's ad hoc.
And what about suicidal people that don't have hopes and dreams? I mean, there are people too, you know.
Or what about severely demented people at the end?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
What
here's
is
another
this
thing.
nonsense from?
Basically, if I understand TMN right, the idea that even though a fetus does feel pain or suffers for a short few minutes, even though it may have be conscious, it can't comprehend its mortality, and that's why it's okay to kill it. And that seems to be like a eugenist argument, actually, right there. I mean, yeah.
Not quite, but it still fails because as we pointed out in the previous video, humans don't even have any form of self-consciousness before 18 months or so. In fact, they don't have fully formed self-consciousness until they're teenagers. So are we using a sliding scale here, or is this a binary? Either they have self-consciousness or they don't. I mean, I guess following his logic, some humans would have intrinsically more value than others if they are more self-conscious.
Well, yeah, that's I do think some way it's similar to eugenics argument. Eugenics is the belief that we need to kill the mentally unfit, basically. And there were, back in World War II, Nazis who killed people who couldn't understand their comprehension of mortality, so we need to kill them off. So here we have a fetus who can't comprehend its own mortality, and it's okay to kill it. So
well, yeah, but the eugenicists thought they were doing that for the good of the gene pool. But yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, there's a difference right there, yeah. So in this case, they're doing it for the good of the woman, basically, because they think it's a burden to have on a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
So, right, thank you for that. So, yeah, so that right there doesn't work. It isn't, what Max saying is an ad hoc right there. So, and let's continue with this little quote right here. Hang on.
Could result in decades of psychological trauma and a profound change in the direction of my life and in my well-being, in addition to the discomfort of the birthing process itself. Why would anyone prefer that over a few minutes of pain?
Well,
Go back.
Here's
Go
one
back.
thing,
That's ridiculous. Go back.
Well, for one thing, it's murder to kill a fetus. And
Go back to the screen. Go back to the screen.
right. Oh, hang on. Yeah, sure.
Anyone dying would be, if that's your criteria, anyone dying would just be a few minutes of pain. Is he justifying all murder?
Okay, go back to the screen. There's another premise there that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you make of the argument that people would just like get illegal abortions and it would be unsafe or whatever? What do you make of that argument?
That's ridiculous because it's like, let's make burglary legal so it's safe for the burglars to do it. What is this crap?
Right. Well, I would say that the illegal abortions are God's judgment upon you.
Probably. Go back.
Well, yes. He also says that the decades of psychological trauma.
Yeah, no, I want to focus on that. I want to focus on that right there. Go ahead. Go back.
I mean, how does having a baby cause decades of psychological trauma?
That implies something that is really disgusting.
I mean,
firstly, I'm not a mom, but if I was a dad, if I learned I was having a kid, that would be the happiest day of my life.
Yeah, and
I'm going to try to have as many children as possible. So
it's not something that would produce decades of trauma with me.
Yeah, I want to ask personally, where is Max evidence that it caused decades of psychological trauma on a person? Does he have any evidence for it? I mean,
what percentage of the population too?
Yeah. Well,
and also a couple other things here. A couple other things I want to note here.
Yeah.
I mean, there is this analogy. Hassan talked to me again the other day, and he brought this up. He saw this video and thought this is ridiculous. And he pointed out this scenario where there is a researcher, okay, who would have to lose several decades of research on. He's out in the middle of this. His boat sunk, and he's out in this life raft in the middle of the ocean, right? And someone nearby, another ship sank, and there's a kid surviving, but there's sharks in the water, right? And would it be better for him to just dump the research over in the water and hold the kid in his lap in this uncomfortable position or maybe not even dump the research, just hold the kid in his lap in this uncomfortable position, or for him to push the kid off the raft when the kid approaches? It's his raft, likewise his body type of thing. And I mean, obviously in that situation, you'd say he should hold the kid there. And then lastly here, go back to that screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's see here. What's to keep flipping back?
Well,
Thomas,
whenever we talk, we flip back.
Thomas, mute your mic. Just for a second.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Being forced to give birth against my will could result in decades of psychological trauma and a profound change in the direction of my life and in my well-being, in addition to the discomfort of the birthing process itself. Okay. There is, the birthing process, that's not worth killing someone. I mean, for crying, discomfort, you're putting discomfort over someone else's life, for crying out. That's disgusting. Now, secondly, there's also someone we know of in the news that put their avoidance of decades of psychological trauma and a profound direction of their life and well-being ahead of someone else's life, okay? It was a mother, okay? And the mother's name was Casey Anthony. If you're going to murder someone just so you can have a better life, right? Frankly, you don't deserve a better life. I mean, that's Casey Anthony logic right there.
Yeah.
You know, I have an
Well,
analogy
well
to
once
it.
again, that lack of a better life, so to speak, that's also God's judgment upon you.
I'm just waiting. I just want to hear some woman stand up and say, yeah, my birthing was so horrible. This child I have here was the result, what caused years and years of trauma. I would actually
I
like
don't
to
understand this. I do not understand this. I would love to have kids. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of got screwed by this
Yeah.
courtship thing when I was younger, and it messed things up with my love
Well,
life.
my goal is to have 9 kids. That's my goal.
I mean, it's just like the pro-choicers make everything so hysterical.
But I mean, what's wrong with? I would love to have kids. I don't understand what the big deal is.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I have an analogy right here. You know, decades of psychological trauma in my life. You know, I could be traumatized in a car accident. Does that mean we need to outlaw cars?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, now this is maybe it's possible, but remember, possibility is not probability. He doesn't even show any evidence this is true.
No.
And what about for the other side of people who get abortions? Isn't it possible for they might be traumatized? I mean,
in fact, there are studies that would indicate that. So, I mean, yeah.
really?
Oh,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Do you have any?
There was this one. I don't have it. I have a screenshot on my computer, but I don't have it. Like, I don't know I'm not sure how to upload these, but they point out the suicide rate. What?
Oh well, try your best, but continue. Yeah.
I'll just read it. Okay.
Okay.
This is from the BMJ. The suicide rate after an abortion was 3 times the general suicide rate and 6 times that associated with birth. Similarly, the rate of psychiatric admissions within 3 months after the end of pregnancy was 53% higher in women who delivered than in women who had an induced abortion in a Danish registered study. Okay, so the suicide rate after an abortion is 3 times the general suicide rate and 6 times that associated with birth.
Oh,
But it's interesting, 3 times the general suicide rate and 6 times that associated with birth, meaning that birth actually reduces the suicide rate.
Yeah.
So it makes people happier. That completely goes against the whole notion that it's going to give decades of trauma. People are happy when they have kids. I mean,
yeah, I think that's common knowledge right there. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's not going to produce. I mean, you're going to have this guilty conscience because you murdered someone, and that's going to make your life better.
Yeah.
I mean, what in the world? I mean, unless you're a psychopath or something, but and completely unable to, do the right thing when it comes to abortion, even if you're shown that it's the right thing to do. I mean,
yeah.
Right, then go ahead, deflate atheism.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, okay, so maybe, even assuming the worst, that there's trauma for giving birth, and there is, of course, the physical pain of giving birth. Maybe that will blow over. Who knows? Even granting his premise that this is a traumatic event, you can't unkill a child, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's a decision you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. So
Sorry, officer, I had to go kill those people because they were going to. If I didn't, it would make my life traumatic in the future, for decades and so on. And we changed the course of my life, so I had to go kill them.
Deflate atheism. Did you have any? Did you have any evidence or any?
Why?
No, it basically this abstract that just basically reiterates what Johanan said. Abstract: women with a recent induced abortion have a 3-fold risk for suicide compared to non-pregnant women. The increased risk was recognized in unofficial guidelines, current care guidelines 2001 on abortion treatment. Yeah. Now there is. I mean, you could make an objection here that even just reading this abstract, that the cause and effect might be reversed here. That maybe whatever stressor in her life is causing her to commit suicide also caused her to have an abortion. But I mean, obviously, I would assume they would correct for that in the study.
Well, right. I mean,
let's say she has like an abusive boyfriend or something, and maybe we could say, maybe that would drive her to suicide or something. But, I feel they would correct for that in the study.
Right. And I'm sure there are people who, on the other side may be suicidal or say, but on the side of people getting abortion. So these studies are basically saying that increased suicidal tendency.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
A decreased suicidal tendency for women who give birth.
really?
Yes.
Like, what paper is this?
No, that was in Johanan's. He said there was like a
It was 3 times the suicide rate after an abortion was 3 times the general suicide rate, and 6 times that associated with birth.
yeah.
So that means that the suicide rate would have after giving birth.
Yeah.
All right, and after this video, I'll have to look up those papers and put it out somewhere. Then, okay? So that's
Yeah,
great. So
Yeah.
Put
So-
it in the description of the video. Yeah.
Sounds
I
good.
will. So basically, right now, Mesogmatic showed any evidence whatsoever. He believes that basically it will cause trauma if they basically have go through childbirth. We've shown that's false, and actually abortion causes high suicidal tendency. So it's actually worse for women to have abortion. So if Mesogmatic ever wants to show any evidence that if we're wrong, or if he has any evidence, be my guest, because so far he hasn't showed any scientific facts whatsoever. So let's go on.
Said about complaining that he's balking at my attempt to lob a Molotov cocktail into the discussion session and be like, well, they deserve to live in an authoritarian society where they can be cruelly, unusually punished, type of thing, He's in favor of cruel and unusual punishment here. He's saying so explicitly. Like, hypothetically, what if there was some freak discovery? It's not even a freak discovery. That's just science. Go back.
Yeah, it's right here. I got right here. I'll read it myself. All right. Let's see here. Is it right here? Oh wait, maybe this is this. Let's go back up really quick.
Okay, go
here it is.
go back down. Okay, that one too. Okay, well, both of them. Gee, we stop there, but
Well,
then
hang
go
on,
down after ignore.
I'll read this really quick, guys. Saying hypothetically, what if there was some freak discovery tomorrow that proved to us that fetuses are perfectly aware of all pain and abortions cause them incredible suffering? And his response was, that wouldn't change my position. I would still rather be one of those fetuses than be someone forced to give birth. Yeah, I bet he's saying that.
He's just saying that outright. He's saying
I think he's
if
probably just
abortion was
fighting
proven
bullets
to be
here.
cruel and unusual punishment, I would still be in favor of it.
Johanan seems to think that this is hypocrisy on my part. However, if someone is immutably committed to getting an abortion, we have 2 options, to permit it or to not permit it. If both of these options are cruel, then cruelty is unavoidable. If someone is opposed to cruelty, but their only options are to choose between a greater cruelty and a lesser one, the sensible thing to do would be to advocate the lesser cruelty. There's absolutely nothing hypocritical about that. I'd rather suffer the few minutes of pain of being aborted than suffer the potentially decades of trauma that result from being forced to give birth, and living in a world in which others are subjected to that same greater cruelty. Also, Leo the
Go back.
Yeah.
Go back. Okay. That's Casey Anthony logic right there. That's straight up Casey Anthony logic. I'd rather suffer the few minutes of pain being aborted than suffer the potentially decades of trauma. She was trying to avoid decades of trauma or having her life, altered because of having to take care of a kid when she was like 19 or whatever, right? And living in the world which others are okay. So basically, let's paraphrase this here. I'd rather suffer being drowned in a swimming pool than suffering the potentially decades of trauma that would result from having to raise my daughter. Do you see the parallels here?
Thomas, plain atheism.
This is
No, I
the
mean,
exact same thing. I mean, literally, the
I
only
do see the
difference
parallels
is
myself, yeah,
one
I do.
happens to be before birth and therefore legal, and the other one happens to be after birth, and therefore we all, are outraged at Casey Anthony drowning her kid in the swimming pool.
Yep. Go ahead, Thomas.
I forgot what I was going to say there, so come back to me.
Well, take your time. All right. Yeah, like we discussed, now TMM does say, a lesser cruelty here, but the lesser cruelty is actually giving birth, believe it or not.
Also, furthermore, here, let's look at something else here.
Yeah.
Let's look at the issue of guilt versus innocence.
Okay.
The first person, go back. Okay, the person suffering the few minutes of pain happens from the abortion, happens to be an innocent person. The person that would be suffering from the, decades of stuff who would be committing the murder to do that, get away from that, would be the guilty person when it comes to, why the heck should I care about, a child murderer having to avoid,
Yeah.
quote unquote cruelty, which isn't even cruelty for crying. Having a kid, raising a kid is supposed to be a joy, not a cruelty. I mean, what in the world? But like, even still, I mean, why should I side with the murderer versus the person being murdered when, say it is slightly more, painful to take care of the kid or whatever.
Well,
Which
yeah,
is ridiculous. But even if it was,
he'll probably still argue that it's not a person given to this.
yeah, but that's shifting tactics now. That's shifting the discussion entirely.
That's moving the goalpost.
That's what's called the Dillahunty Dash or whatever. Or a nickname. You just change the topic from what we're discussing one thing, and then change the topic to something else.
I've heard
that's a different topic. So yeah, if the fetal child is not a person, then abortion is okay anyway, and the whole thing's closed. Okay.
I've heard hurling the elephant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. This is a different issue. It's.
Right. Well, I want to bring back something that Messiah Mag pointed out before. When there's a video that IP made that, what about people in comas? They're not conscious, and we don't pull the plug on them. And Messiah Mag responded by saying that the reason why we don't is because it would exacerbate the fear in us, where we don't have a fear of becoming a fetus once again. And to hear, that just seems like a logical fallacy right there. To the reason that we it's okay to kill a fetus because we have no fear ever becoming a fetus. And
it's more ad hoc reasoning from him that we are all just supposed to accept as ultimate truth for some reason.
Yeah, and I had a question that he didn't answer in the last response. What would happen if everyone decided that this man in a coma, they're not afraid if they ever get into be a coma? Do they have a right? Is it all right to pull a plug on him then? I mean, given based on our feelings, we shouldn't base our feelings.
I would guess he would argue yes for that, for the pulling the plug, if he were to ask him, but I don't know for sure.
Well, I want to know from him personally what he thinks of that. Basically, if it, this whole reason, and what he's making ad hoc definition right now. How can I possibly argue a way for the fetus to be killed? Oh, we're not afraid of becoming a fetus. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the whole thing here, and I think it goes back to a very foundational issue of is that Thomas? Is that you make it all okay? It is kind of the foundational difference between pro-choice and pro-life, and just kind of a culture of life, and kind of the culture of kind of well-being or something.
About that well-being thing, I wanted to kind of I realized something else to expand on that with the Casey Anthony thing.
Yeah,
that's completely. I mean, say you have. I mean, that seems to be a very crass level of utilitarian calculus there.
Yes,
the pleasure
exactly.
The pleasure principle, but like without any consideration to anything else. Like, I mean, so say we have a society where there are, a society of 110,000 people, and there are 100,000 criminals who would have maximized pleasure if they enslaved the other 10,000.
Yes.
Or killed the other 10,000.
Yes.
I mean, for crying out loud, nuke the 100,000 from orbit if that's how they're going to behave.
Yeah.
Why do I care about their pleasure if they're going to do this horrible thing to the other 10,000? Yeah, there's a maximized pleasure, the maximized pleasure of all these criminals who are oppressing and murdering people, okay?
Yeah. Exactly. You can base your entire worldview on this kind of hedonic calculus, or you can believe that people have an intrinsic value and an intrinsic right.
Yeah. And the hedonic value is not even valuable. Even if, say I were to do a utilitarian calculus, I would not base it on pleasure. I'd base it on, value sets, and the notion of all these criminals gaining pleasure off of, other people's pain would have negative utility to me.
Yes.
Partly, I suppose, because I have certain vindictive streaks, and that would be, be positive to me. I shouldn't go there. That's kind of screwed up, but
yeah,
that's of negative. Having criminals have pleasure at someone else's expense is of negative value. That pleasure that they have is of negative value to me.
And also the view that a person is only worth their usefulness to society. That would be another thing. That
That's
again,
ridiculous.
that takes away from the whole concept that we have an intrinsic right to life. We have an intrinsic value, which is a belief that has done a whole lot of good in history. The belief that people have a value only according to their utility has had a very bad showing in history.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
All right, then. This is the very end of the part of the video right here, so let's continue on with this.
What I actually said was that abortion is not a bodily autonomy issue because the fetus is part of the woman's body. Leo's misunderstood this sentence. In this sentence, I am rejecting the argument that the fetus is part of the woman's body. I am saying that abortion is a bodily autonomy issue, but this is because the fetus has unavoidable effects on the woman's body and not because I think the fetus is part of the woman's body. I acknowledge that the fetus is not part of the woman's body. Leo.
Right. Now, back in my...
Those autonomy arguments are just stupid. The whole utilitarian calculus goes the other way there. I mean, you wouldn't have autonomy if you didn't have life. Therefore, life is more important than autonomy. Therefore, if you were doing this on a strict utilitarian calculus, we would sacrifice the lesser right of autonomy for the greater right of life. That's just the bottom line.
Right, and yeah. And to deflate atheism, didn't you make an analogy in the last podcast about this? There was
Refresh my memory.
It was about a man who saved his own life instead of a crew. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Well. This actually, I was going to go say back before something Johanan said about Good Samaritan laws, but kind of writ large as an actual news item is that the man who was the captain of this cruise ship, the Costa Concordia, that sank, he was obligated to put his own life at risk to save the lives of the passengers. He did not do that, and he got, I believe, a jail sentence because he was obligated, as part of his job, to put the lives of his passengers over his own life. Now, a person can say, oh, well, he wrote a contract. I mean, he agreed to a contract where he would be obligated to do so. But if you say that the right to bodily autonomy is absolute, any human-made contract would not stand up to that since it's absolute. That's what being absolute means. So no, that alone falsifies the concept that bodily autonomy is absolute. The fact that the captain of the Costa Concordia was obligated to put the well-being of other people above his own personal safety.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, Messiah Mac didn't respond to...
No, of course he didn't. Of course he did. He just ignored pretty much everything we said, yes.
I think it's because the video was kind of long, to be honest. That's why I trimmed mine a bit.
That too, but in my own dealings with him, in my own videos, he drops the topic whenever it becomes inconvenient to him.
And there was also another thing in the other video. I misunderstood Messiah Mac. I thought he was saying that he does believe the fetus was part of the woman's body, but it's not a good argument for the autonomy argument. But however, he's clarifying, saying he doesn't believe in either of those statements. So I'm glad he clarified that for a bit.
You have to give him credit for this.
That is true,
I think a lot of pro-choicers try to stand on two legs where they say, oh, well, the fetus isn't a human being, but even if it was, a woman would still have the right to choose. But even if she didn't, then and so they never really commit to any one premise. And so if I would have to say any good thing about TMM here, it's that he commits at least to his premise and does not depend on the fetus as not a human being. So I'll give that to him.
Probably because there's too much science.
Couldn't you argue that you can shoot your child, right? Because it's my body, my choice.
Well, there's the whole thing where if a guy kicks a pregnant woman in the stomach, then suddenly he's guilty for murder, but manslaughter or something. But it's not. She's well within her rights if she wants to abort itself, which is not a standard, which is not logically used anywhere else in society,
Right, and wasn't there also a paper you brought up before that showing that the born child, the infant, doesn't develop its own identity until at least 18 months later or so. Right. So, what happens if no one, what if the parents didn't want the child and just decide to throw it away or, just get rid of it or kill it?
As was very common in human history until distressingly recently. I mean, I think you talked about the ancient Greeks always just put their newborns out just to die of
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah, that's happened in the past before, absolutely. So
Yeah.
Right. So
All right, let's finish the video.
all right, then let's continue then.
Says, and tell me why it is that stabling someone in the kidney would rightly be considered cruel and unusual punishment. And what if we discovered that the fetus does feel pain and suffering, and you said that wouldn't change my position, so you're fine with murder? Leo seems to think that believing that morality is subjective is equivalent to being okay with stabling, murdering, and murdering people. This is the level of herp fucking derp apologists throw at me nowadays.
Right. Now, I can understand what he's saying right here. So basically subjective morality, it doesn't not necessarily lead to murder. I would say that it opens the possibility of that, but he's trying to make the point here saying that it doesn't necessarily lead to murder. Subjective morality is based on like the person or culture. They pretty much that somebody can use it to justify murder because it's okay to me. So it doesn't necessarily, I would never say it necessarily that subjective morality leads to murder, but it does open the door to it.
All right, I want to make a kind of a jab here, and this is off on we're switching from the abortion thing for just a moment. The herp fucking derp kind of apologetics that he mentioned, right? That he gets from apologists these days.
Yeah.
I would challenge him to actually tackle the video I made on Sean Carroll schools the Messianic Manic on physics without, he kind of like flipped it over by appealing to Sean Carroll's authority and then ignoring the incompatibility between atoms in the void and emergent space-time from information, right? Actually go in and tackle my video and try and, piece apart the ideas in it and tell me if it's herp-a-derp apologetics.
Yeah, I've
go on, Messianic Man. I challenge you. Okay, just take a look at the video and actually do a response to it. You can call it herp-a-derp at the end if you want, but explain why it's herp-a-derp. You haven't responded to that video, and you seem to be ignoring that video.
Actually,
my God.
Yeah, that could be our next podcast
why.
if he does respond to it. Actually,
What?
That could be our next podcast if he does respond.
If he does, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
All right,
I'd
then
invite him
that's
on then if
possible.
he does respond to that.
It's funny when you get confronted with these true believers in the video that was on my channel. I got a drive-by poster, of course.
Because interestingly enough, my video, it reaches the conclusion of Donald Hoffman, who's UC Irvine. He lives works 15 miles away from me, but that physics there that I concluded with, that is conscious realism. That's if he's going to call me herp-a-derp apologetics, well, why don't you go argue with a university professor who came to the same conclusion and has a mathematical model of it?
Yeah. And well,
But he does. When you go to his channel, though, what you find is very interesting. He'll go, and I if there are dualists here, I don't want to like kind of belittle this, but I want to point out that dualism has created kind of an Achilles heel in apologetics because it's put these things outside the realm of science or outside the realm of their certain. It limits how far we can study them, shall we say? And I noticed there, not to say the apologists doing the best they can, but from a dualist framework, there are certain Achilles heels and certain limitations to what they can do with it, right? And when you go to the Messianic Manic's channel, and well, not just him, but there's a number of atheists that do this, right? So I shouldn't just pick on him, but like a number of atheist channels that do this. They can easily pick these up and shoot them in a barrel, They can attack the Achilles heels. They know where all the Achilles heels are. Well, my models don't have that, right? My arguments don't have that. My approaches. Why don't they try and tackle those? Is it just because they want to have fun shooting fish in a barrel, or are they actually interested in getting to the bottom of this?
Yeah.
So what did all of you think of this video, the response video Messianic Manic made to us?
Disappointing.
Do you think it's better?
Just no. There's no evidence. Of course, he doesn't really give any sort of coherent principle without just piling on a bunch of ad hoc exceptions and then ad hoc exceptions to those exceptions. I mean, it all just seems like it's just jury rigged together, just so his whole morality is just jury rigged to support his own personal preferences, and he just takes these arguments after the fact to just kind of justify what he wants.
Yeah, that's personally.
I would ask him if you were to watch this, and maybe this would be kind of the finishing thought of the podcast or whatever, unless you guys want to go on, but why he is psychologically predisposed to wanting and not being able to allow for abortion.
Why does he use language that it's this horrible, traumatizing event that I would almost hear no mothers themselves use? Where is he getting that?
Well, I think that's more of like him personally. I think the idea about his subjective moral views, that's to hit him subjectively to him that way, but to
what
others.
What values is he putting above someone else's life in this case? What value is it, that overriding value that makes illegal abortion desirable to him? Or if he says that legal abortion is desirable, the legal right, I shouldn't say an actual right because it's not really a natural right, but the legal synthetic right to get an abortion. What is the overriding value that makes it worth it to him to do that?
I don't know. Maybe he'll tell us in the next response video he makes.
Maybe.
Or if he ever does get on here, which I don't know.
That'll be interesting. We could actually make an honest man out of him.
I probably won't be on here if he's on there, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he's if he wants to, he's welcome to invite anyone actually on here. I've been trying to get my friend Mike. He's an old friend of mine. He had to quit on this podcast, and he's not going to be on it for a while, till probably like at the end of August or November. He said but I want to go over this here. So basically, throughout the video, he didn't really give any evidence to support his claims. The idea that pregnancy and raising a child will add trauma to my life. He didn't give any evidence, and we've shown that actually abortion was actually worse in that case.
What I wanted to say about that particular thing, right, is like, it may be inconvenient to have a child, but people learn to have them, right? They learn to take care of them. They learn to be able to support them. So, so even if it may be an inconvenience, it's something that people learn to deal with.
And there's adoption too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, some people it might be forced onto them. Some people, that they might have a hard time with it. But again, in the end, we're trying to say that murder is worse. All right. I mean, that's the whole point we're trying to make in this video. Okay. We're not trying to force, women just to go through pain. We're trying to save life here. That's the only way out. If there's any other options to save the fetus, but without killing it, I mean, we're open to it. The whole point of this, we're trying to save the fetus life. That's the whole point. And there's tons of evidence that we show that the fetus does have life. And Mr. Mac didn't reply to any of the, not most of our objections we made in our last podcast. So here, I'm hoping any questions we asked him, he will answer them.
Not a chance.
Well, I'm making a statement right now that I hope he does. The question I had before, but whichever happens, so next podcast, I'm thinking of any options for another podcast. I'm thinking about doing it in advance of 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Maybe we get
another podcast.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making this.
I'm thinking we should go on some of Anti-Citizens X stuff with his epistemology and.
Oh, I would absolutely love.
He's another atheist that has stalled out in his subscriber.
No, I know him from personal experience. Believe me, he's the reason why I left the idea of atheism, because I was sort of leaning to it, but thanks to his videos in my philosophy class, he turned me and 3 other people who were doubtful of Christianity into leaning to theism and said, "Okay, this guy's terrible. Let's give theism a chance." And then I kind of found Inspiring Philosophy's videos through Messianic Man again. That's how it happened.
That's actually kind of my experience.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Is that everyone's experience here?
Oh, he left. Okay. Well, goodbye, Thomas. I'm sorry.
Oh, goodbye, Thomas. See you. Thank you then. Yeah. So. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that's my experience, because I was never an atheist, but for much of my life I was kind of a generic non-denominational theist. I always thought maybe the atheist has to have some tricks up their sleeves. Maybe they have some great arguments I don't know about. But ever since this spotlight has been put on atheism for the last 10 years, it has been cast in this unrelenting glare. You just realize they've got nothing. So that's pushed me more towards Christianity, is seeing the absolute paucity of argument from the atheists.
Yeah, that's absolutely my experience too. Actually, I went to Anti-Citizen X and Dogmatic. At one point, I was having a hard time grasping what free will was, and I thought, well, there's these tons of arguments online that's arguing that free will doesn't exist. I said, okay, these might make sense, and I argued with another friend in my class who went over and over this, and this opponent, he even had like a few videos suggesting that free will does exist based on quantum mechanics. And I go back to Anti-Citizen X, or Dogmatic didn't reply to me too much, so I went to Anti-Citizen X, and Anti-Citizen X would already reply just saying, for the last time, what is free will? Because you can't change the goalpost on this situation. Either things are random or detergent. And I keep asking them, well, what if it caused itself? And they say, now you're switching the goalpost here. And a lot of what he's saying doesn't really make much sense to me. And eventually I figured it out, he's lying. And not only that, he admitted to me when I told him that I secretly thought deep down maybe the reason why I'm arguing against free will because I don't have responsibility. And then he says, oh, don't worry, your secret's safe with me. He admitted it. And then told me that he wanted the same thing too. But not only that, I got it from a few other people in my class too. There was another person in my class who actually believed in subjective morality, but he was extreme to it. He thought there was nothing wrong with stealing. So what he did, he would do anything to pickpocket people's cash out wallets. And if you ever get caught, he would say that, morality is subjective, and anyone who follows his views, they just do whatever they want. He actually developed a small group of people who actually believed in this, because I would tell him, stealing's wrong, and he says, why should I believe that? Why should I be concerned with other people? That kind of idea is dangerous. It commits chaos, alchemy at its core. And I had to debate this guy so many times until eventually, I gave him a taste of his own medicine. When I was debating him in our class, I said, all right, you win. So I took his wallet. And he says, well, I'll give it back. And I said, well, no, I'm going to take it. And he said, he'll take it back from me. And I would tell him, well, I'll just take it back from you. And he says, then he says, well, then I'll stab you and kill you and take it back from him. And I said, well, then you'll go to jail for that. Then he says, I'll escape from jail. And it went on and on, back and forth to it. But I'm saying.
And then the teacher said, I'll fail both of you, yes.
Well, teacher had to step in because he didn't like it when he's saying he was going to kill someone over that. And they kind of shocked the class, with that. I don't think subjective morality have the idea. His was extreme. To people who are with subjective morality, they want to feel their opinion. Unless you're like a little crazy or maybe somewhat a psychopath, you might think murder is okay.
If you go the subjective morality approach, from my point of view, abortion is evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't I just bend the democracy in and get rid of it?
Yeah.
Choke it off and.
I mean, you can't have kind of subjective morality. It's like having half pure water or something. I mean, either morality is subjective or it isn't, and you don't allow yourself really any back doors. I know they think you have a back door to that, but when you say that morality is subjective, as TMM does, or when you say that there is no such thing as mind independent reality, as TMM does, you're not allowing yourself any back doors.
Well, in a technical way, there isn't any such thing as mind independent reality.
What's that?
That's actually funny. Was that his fans that said that, or was that him that said that?
That was him. That was him. But his fans just parrot whatever it is he says. Yeah. By the way, we should have a name for.
Hold on here. For who?
TMM's fans, is
okay. Hold on here. There is no mind-independent reality. I want to break that down for just a moment. So all reality is mind-dependent, then, right?
I guess.
Wait. Maybe I misquote. Maybe you said there's
whose mind? Whose mind then?
Truth. Mind-independent truth.
Okay, that's okay. That's stupid.
Okay. And because I objected to that, they called me a Platonist.
What's wrong with Platonism? Platonism is kind of self-evident. Like it's.
And they all called me stupid for being a Platonist. Yeah.
You ground your knowledge on ideas.
All his fans know nothing. They know nothing of philosophy except what they learned from him. So
Yeah.
There's
I
nothing
mean,
incoherent about Platonism at all. I mean, you could point to the third man argument, but there are relatively easy ways out of that. So
Johan, what were you saying before that Messianic Manic? He's not getting much views or something. Do you constantly check?
Well,
on
no. He not. I check on him just because he makes videos frequently, and he's one of. Fortunately, despite the fact that his videos are, I mean, intellectually wise, they're kind of terrible. It's going
I
to
don't
sound
think
really
he
terrible.
takes time on, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, the point is that believe it or not, despite them being terrible like that, he's one of the few atheists that actually even tries anymore.
yeah, that's what I say.
That's why I watch them. Like, I mean, it's so stupid. Well, in a way, it's kind of sad. There were some atheists I really respected. Like, of course, Mortimer is. I like.
Oh,
Mortimer.
you know Mortimer too? Actually, you know, of all the atheists, he was the first one I found, and actually, I highly respect him too. Actually, I think he's probably the only.
Yeah, he's kind of focused on other. I mean, he more focuses on like, really stuff that is actually dumb, like stuff on wacky stuff on spirit science or debunking flat Earth theory, etc. Okay, I mean that's fine. And one other atheist that I really liked, and this guy was, I mean, he was actually more an atheist for the sake of he liked debate and like arguing, not because he had an agenda or he was like spiteful about it. He just aggressive. He just liked it for the sake of enjoying arguing and in discussing ideas, and it was kind of a fun thing to. He actually did a response to one of my video, Why There Is Evil Ones, and I thought it was kind of I wanted to respond, but I was sick at the time, and then I kind of forgot and so on. But Noel Plum 99, remember him?
Yeah.
He's still on. Unfortunately, and he actually told me this. He said he wanted to respond to one of my videos recently, not recently, like a year actually, but he couldn't because he had been so distracted with this whole stupid feminism thing.
Yeah.
They got sucked right into this feminism hole, and it's like, I mean, it's so irritating because like I don't like feminism either, but like the main thing I don't like feminism for right now is that it's well about debate club.
I mean, one thing I respect.
All the atheists are focused on the feminists now, and feminism has ruined atheism. Like,
yeah,
I mean, insofar as I don't like the phenomenon of internet atheism, I miss being able to debate this stuff, and it's like I like to have them back because there's someone to debate and joust with and so on, and it's made it.
Well, I think
feminism stole the show and shut everything down.
Yeah, they don't have that monopoly anymore. I think now is a great time for Christians to kind of raise their voice. Because I don't think it's gotten to the thing now where whenever anybody makes a Christian video, they're just going to get a whole ton of downvotes or something. I don't think like that anymore.
What?
I think it's okay. You've heard all the stupid invisible sky fairy memes. Okay, here's our actual argument. I think the time is ripe for that.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I would have to wonder. I highly respect Mortimer. I should actually try to get in contact with him. Now, is he on the side of abortion or not? Because I have an idea. If he does if he does believe in abortion, he could come on this podcast with Messianic Manic, have a live debate. I would absolutely love him to be on here.
If I were to bring Mortimer on, I would probably want to discuss physics, though.
Okay, we could probably do that, true. But anyways, let's wrap this up here.
It would probably end up being more of a discussion than a debate in that case.
Oh, yeah, it's yeah, that's true. So basically, we've shown that Messianic Manic showed no scientific evidence. That's the thing with him. He just gives nothing. We've demonstrated we have scientific evidence in papers, and I'll try my best to get it in the description below when I get this uploaded. We've shown, we're asking Messianic Manic, these questions that he never really responded to. He kind of skipped over last podcast, and I hope he doesn't skip them right now. I also want to know that, we talked a little bit about quantum mechanics in the first part, but most of this is about abortion, and I want him to address this and see if he has any way to refute it. Okay, we've shown that what he's saying was incoherent. It's basically an ad hoc. There's no reason to it, and if he does want to be on here, that's fine. And he can bring anyone on here. Matter of fact, after this is done, I'm gonna go to the Rational channel and ask them if they want to be on here for next podcast. And so far, I don't know if he's gonna deflate atheism did you say he will do it or he won't do it, or he doesn't like? Oh,
What?
Johan, you said he doesn't like.
Yeah.
John, you're the one that said he didn't like debates, right? Or
Yeah.
okay, so well, maybe it could be more of a discussion then.
Yeah.
Whichever. Because
All
I
right.
think it's a good. Yeah.
Messianic Manic is watching this. You're invited on next time.
All right then, if he is willing to. Anyways, thank you for coming on. Anyone's invited to the podcast, even Messianic Manic's fans. If they want to be on here, that they're welcome to too. Whichever. Anyone can join.
The Messianic Maniacs, yeah.
Messianic mate, that's a good name
That's
for
a
them.
cool term.
Yes, the Maniacs. That's what we'll call their fans, the Maniacs. It's an interesting idea. But anyways, I believe this is the end right here. So until next time, we see you later.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
See ya.